Alright, so continuing with the introduction to the 39 Melachot, we're going to continue with the second part of Chatzei Shir, Melachat Shabbat, half measurements for the Melachah of Shabbat. So before we begin, we first like to give a little announcement that the learning should be the merit of Rav Chachai Bat Sarah. On behalf of the Yeshiva, and especially the Rav, we'll give a big thank you for all the support that's being provided. So just as a recap for what we did last time, we began to discuss the idea of Chatzei Shir, that even though the Torah forbids numerous things, especially when it comes to eating foods and the different types of actions, there's always a measurement that seems to be going along with it. And the question was that measurement that was not met, was there still in Isur? And we saw there was a Mishnah of Masechet Yomad Daf Ayin Gimel, which brought a machloket between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan regarding Chatzei Shir with a sermon of Torah. Rabbi Yochanan held that, for instance, the situation if a person eats less than a kazayit of chelev, let's say, as the pasuk says, kol chelev lo tochelu. Rabbi Yochanan says that situation, kol chelev, all chelev is aser, comes to include even less than measurement. We spoke about how halacha l'maaseh would paskin like Rabbi Yochanan, and therefore any amount would be aser. And the reason is because the idea of chazeletz terufeh, that it's capable of conjoining with other amount in order to produce the full measurement. We brought two different ideas. What chazeletz terufeh means? According to one opinion, it's only a fence. The Torah says that don't eat half a measurement, so that you will not come to eat the full measurement. According to another opinion, it means that it doesn't serve as a fence, but rather each individual piece contains isur, and therefore the nafkamina would also be regarding the other extreme, in which if a person were to eat, let's say, a seudah mitzvah, for example, if a person is eating matzah, and he has less than the shir of the chiyuv of a kazayit, would he be able to still fulfill somewhat of a mitzvah if he has less than the kazayit? So the question is, dependent upon how we understand what chazeletz terufeh is. The question comes back to Chatzei Shir Melachat Shabbat. So we already spoke about last time that if you look at the 39 Melachot, the list that goes on, the 7th parak of Masechet Shabbat, it talks about the 39 Melachot. But what interesting happens is that only several of these Melachot, the measurement is given. It says if you write 2 letters, if you sew 2 threads, if you weave 2 threads, but it doesn't give the measurement for all 39 Melachot. The question was, how come that's the case? It should give a measurement for everything or nothing. Why does it give only for certain things? So we have to describe it. Maybe it could be that for certain things, it was going to be only if a full measurement is found, and maybe other things if no measurement is found. And the question is really dependent upon whether Chatzei Shir is found in Melachat Shabbat as well. And to understand this, we found the Rashi. The Rashi says in Daf Ayin Daled Aleph, Rashi says the following, that the Gemara asks a rhetorical question saying, is it possible, rhetorically, is it possible to cook even less or bake even less than a full shiur on Shabbat? Meaning the following, that if a person wants to be over on the melacha of cooking on Shabbat, he has to cook an amount of what's called a grogeret, which is a dried date. Now, if a person cooks less than that, the Gemara says, astonishingly, is it possible to say that it's permitted to cook less than that? The question is, maybe it seems as if it's saying that it would be asr. And Rashi says over there that from here we find that cooking less than the shiur is asr midoraita. Why is it asr midoraita? Because from the idea that kol chatzei shir asr min Torah, that anything that's chatzei shir is asr min Torah. And the question is exactly where does Rashi know that from? I mean, last time that we looked into it, what was the pasuk that we learned chatzei shir from? What was the pasuk? What was the pasuk that we learned it from? Anyone remember? Kol chelev, right? Kol chelev lo tochelev. Let's write it on the board. Kol chelev lo tochelev. All chelev should not be eaten. We said the word kol, which means all chelev, comes to include even in the smallest amount. So, what would be a seeming problem with understanding Chatzei Shir Melachat Shabbat from this pasuk? What is this pasuk referring to? Well, what's chelev? Is it an action? What is it? It's a type of food. So I would understand that this pasuk comes to include all types of forbidden foods. But can I learn that out to refer to all types of forbidden actions? Seemingly not the same thing. Seemingly 2 different things. So there is a famous idea that's brought down by the Ber Yitzchak in the Shalom Shivot, and he says, no, Rashi learns from a different pasuk. But he learns it in a very interesting way. He quotes the Midrash in Torah Kohanim, which quotes the pasuk, Kol melacha lo ta'asu. Pasuk says, Kol melacha lo ta'asu. All melacha on the 7th day on Shabbat should not be done. The question is, why does it say Kol melacha lo ta'asu? Why does it say don't do any work whatsoever. Just say don't do malacha. Why does it say don't do any malacha? And he quotes this idea that based on this, just as kol chelev includes chatzi shir, so too even half of the measurement of malacha would be assumed the right as well. So it's like a gzera shava. The just as over here is referring to half a measurement, so too regarding malacha, half a measurement is found. And that is what he claims to be the source of Rashi's shita. That's Rashi's opinion. So the question is that the only way that we can learn the pasuk of kol malacha lo tasu? Is there any other way that we can learn this out? Does this seem to be the most bona fide way of understanding this pasuk? So, if you look throughout the works of the Rishonim and their commentary to the pasuk, and this pasuk is found in Parshat Vayekel. If you look at their perush to the pasuk, nobody really comments on what kol malacha means. But I was able to find two perushim, one from a Rishon, one from an Achron. So we start with the Achron. The first one to really mention this is the Vilna Gaon in his commentary to Aderet Eliyahu. And this pasuk he quotes, why does it say kol malacha? And he says the reason it says kol malacha is because it comes to include even chatzi shir. So according to the Vilna Gaon, it seems to be that even chatzi shir is asur mid'oraita. He would agree with Rashi. However, there's another perush. The perush is that of the Rabbah, Rabbi Levi ben Gershom, and he says no. Why does the Torah say kol malacha lo tasu? It doesn't come to include half a measurement. But let's look at the difference. Do we know that there's a difference between Shabbat and Yom Tov? Mainly, the fact on Yom Tov, certain melachot are permitted, which on Shabbat would be forbidden. Namely, which type of melachot? Cooking. Anything that has to do with ochel nefesh. Anything that has to do with preparation of food. However, on Shabbat, even ochel nefesh is forbidden. Therefore, what does the Torah say? Kol melacha lo tasu. Unlike Yom Tov, certain melachot are forbidden, some are not. On Shabbat, kol melacha lo tasu. All of them are forbidden. So therefore, not necessarily we have to learn that this is referring to chatzi shir. Rather, it's referring to all the melachot, even those that are associated with ochel nefesh. So therefore, it's quite questionable exactly whether this is the actual proof of Rashi, that he holds that this is asur mid'oraita, but it's a nice idea that we have to play along with it. That's the shita of Rashi. The second opinion that goes against this is the opinion of the Rambam. The Rambam says in Hilchot Shabbat, Perek Yuchet, Halacha Chav Gimel, Hamotzi Chatzi Shiur Patur. Let's say a person wants to violate the Isur of Hotzah on Shabbat. He wants to take from the inside private domain to the public domain, Rishut HaRabim. So it says that a person takes less than the measurement. And basically, the Gemara goes into great lengths that every type of item has a specific amount of measurement that makes it usher to carry. But let's say a person takes something and he takes less than the measurement. Rambam says, he takes less than the measurement, he is patur, he is absolved. He hasn't done anything that's going to cause him to be chayav, a korban, or karet, or skila. The Rambam says even more emphatically, if a person does any melacha less than the measurement, he is patur. He is patur, he is exempt from it. The question is, when the Rambam says it's patur, is that patur, but he's still chai midoraita, or a patur, but he's exempt midoraita, but still also midorabanan? The question is, how do we understand the Rambam? So the Rambam, earlier on in the first parak, says the following rule. Anytime I'm going to write in my sefer, when I say the word patur, it is patur from karet, umina skila, and from skila, umina korban, also from korban chatat. Aval asula sototo davar b'Shabbat, but it is forbidden to do on Shabbat ve'isuro medivrei sofrim, and it's only asur midrabanan. And the only reason Chachamim said not to do this is so you won't violate the full malacha, which would be asur midoraita. Clearly, what do we find? According to the Rambam, he argues against Rashi and says, no, it's not asur midoraita, it's asur midorabanan. And this seems to be a machloket between Rashi and the Rambam on this regard. So now, we have the question, why does the Rambam hold that the Kol Torah Kula is going to be asur midoraita, but regarding Shabbat, it's only midorabanan? Shouldn't the rule apply all across the board? Well, first of all, we can say the following, because the pasuk of Kol Chelef, again, it's only referring to food, not necessarily it's referring to actions like Melachot Shabbat. That's one approach we could say. Another approach that we could say is the opinion of the Rashbam in his commentary Bava Batra, Daf Nun Hem Amud Bet, and he says the following: the reason that Chatzi Shir is only asur midorabanan is because there's an idea that on Shabbat, in order for a person to violate the Isur midoraita, he has to do what's known as Melechet Machshevet. He has to do an action in which there's full intention and full capacity and meaningfulness in his action. So if there is something lacking in that meaningful intent, therefore it's not asur midoraita, it's asur midorabanan. What would be considered meaningful intent? a meaningful action where it would be with a full shear. Anything that's less than a shear is not considered meaningful enough for the Torah to say that it's going to be considered a bona fide malacha. So therefore, it's one or the other. Either it's a sumid d'oraita or it's not. It can't be asur, but it's not the full shear. If it's not the full shear, it's not asur at all according to the Torah. It would only be according to midrabanan. That's the opinion according to Rambam. However, does everyone agree that the Rambam holds that it's a sumid d'orabanan? Seemingly, we said it is a sumid d'orabanan according to the Rambam, but there is a famous shita brought down by the Mishnah Berurah. The Chavetz Chaim says in Mishnah Berurah in his Biur Halacha to Siman Shemem, where he says the following. The Malan says that if a person pulls 2 hairs on Shabbat, he's violated Isur Midoraita. But Malan also says if a person even pulled 1 hair, it's asur. Biur Halacha says over there, it's asur even according to the Rambam. Even the Rambam would say it's asur Midoraita. He would say, wait a second, didn't the Rambam hold that if a person does Chazei Shir, he's patur, and patur means asur midorabanan? So, how does he get away with it? He says, no. Well, the Rambam says that it's at least asur midorabanan, but sometimes even asur midoraita would follow as well. That's again a little problematic. Most Achronim and modern poskim they reject this idea. They say Pshat the Rambam does not seem to be saying that. The Rambam seems to be saying it's also always midorabanan. So it's a little questionable how he understands Biur Halacha, but many rejected this approach. But that is his famous idea. One more idea that needs to be brought down is Chatzei Shir b'Melechet Hotza'ah. Half a measurement in Melechet Hotza'ah. So, what is exactly this referring to? There's a din that says, besides taking an object from inside to outside, or outside to inside, a person cannot take an object and walk 4 amot in the Reshut HaRabim. Basically, he cannot walk 6 to 8 feet in the Reshut HaRabim holding an object, and once he goes that measurement and stops in the Reshut HaRabim, he violated Isur Midoraita. So now, the question is, let's say I don't walk 4 amot, let's say I walk 2 amot, 1 amot, or 3 3/4 amot. What if it's less than 4 amot? Is that Isur Midoraita, is that Isur Midorabanan, or maybe it's not one of the other? So Rambam famously says the following. Mutar le'adam l'tatam b'reshut harabim b'toch abar amot al arba amot shehum omed b'tzedan. He says a person is permitted to carry less than 4 amot in the reshut harabim. The Rambam doesn't say it's a
Why? Explain why.
So the Rambam doesn't say it is asur midorabanan. The Rambam only says it is, right? It is permitted. It is permitted. So the question is, if the Rambam says earlier that it is asur midorabanan always to do chatzei shir, how come over here when it comes to carrying less than 4 amot, it doesn't say it's asur midorabanan, he says it's permitted? It's a big question. The other thing is that against this Rambam, there's a Miri in his commentary Masechet Shabbat Daf Gimel Amud Bet, where it says that there's a asur midorabanan mishum chatzei shir. The question is, how come the Rambam doesn't hold that? So in order to understand it, there is a Ran that's brought down on Daf Lamed Al Amud Bet on his commentary to the Rif, where the Ran explains how come do we find this idea that if a person carries 4 amot in the Reshut HaRabim, it's asur midoraita. The question is, it's very strange. I understand taking from inside to outside to inside. I'm carrying from one domain to another domain. But within the same domain, why should it be asur? What kind of thing is this? So the Ran says famously the idea that when a person is standing in one location, his immediate 4 amot around him is considered his reshut. It's considered his domain. Once he goes from that 4 amot to the next 4 amot, passing that mark, it's as if he's one domain to the next domain and constantly going from one domain to another. So therefore, he says that if that's the paradigm that we're working with, therefore, if a person is going in Reshut HaRabim from one step to 4 amot later, it's as if he's gone from one domain to another domain. Mamash like hotza'ah or hachnasa, like going from one to the other. So he says, according to this, we do see the parallel between the two of them. So therefore, if that's the case, we understand the Rambam perfectly. There's an idea that's brought down by Sefer Etzion, and he says that based on this, the Rambam makes perfect sense. Because if I'm in my own domain, if I'm at home myself, can I take my stuff and walk around the room all day? Yes, I could do it all day. There's no problem. Why? Because in my domain, it's not a problem. Therefore, according to the Rambam, if my 4 amot in the Reshut HaRabim is considered my domain, there's no problem for me to walk. Because it's as if I'm walking inside my own house. So then the question is, how come the Mari says it's asur midorabanan? How come it's asur midorabanan according to that? This should be permitted also according to him. So the Mari, he says no. He doesn't hold that the reason is because it's like you're carrying from one domain to another. He doesn't hold this whole idea that the Ram brings that 4 amot is considered from one domain to another. But rather he holds that it's a halacha of Moshe Sinai. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, even though there's one thing that's not comparable to the other, that walking 4 amot is not the same thing as Hachnasa or Hatzah, nonetheless it's asur because Moshe Rabbeinu told us from Har Sinai. If that's the case, since we cannot make it the comparison, who are we to say that you could carry 4 amot? It's not the same. Maybe walking less than 4 amot would be an issue, and maybe walking less than 4 amot would be an issue, at least midrabanan. So the question is, how do we look at Hatzah? According to the Rambam, since walking at 4 amot is considered like from Rashut to Rashut, within the 4 amot will be fine. According to the Ran, not doing so would be still asur midrabanan, because he does not see any comparison between the two of them. And with this, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll finish with the series tomorrow. Baruch Olam. Amen v'amen.